What's up, everybody? Good morning. Good morning. What's up, y'all? What's going on? Hope y'all are awake.
Yep.
Hope y'all are up and alert and alive, and not just alive, just sitting there. I mean alive, like you're willing to learn and give what you can. Okay? I am your presenter of the day. My name is Bufford. I am just a wonderful guy, just here from Indianapolis. You know, went to Pike High School. I went to Art Institute in Indianapolis. There was a lot of music stuff, but today is not about the resume. Okay? Today is not about the accolades. Today is not about, oh, where you been and doing all this stuff, production. No. We're going to go back to square one today. Okay? So, with that being said, today you're going to learn some good stuff. And I hope that, you know, whether you have iPhone, whether you have Android, get your notepad out, and we're going to make some notes today. Okay? So, we're going to go around the room. And I'm going to give everybody's name. But here's the rule. Do not tell me what church you play at. Do not tell me what you're affiliated with or what you've been doing. Today, we're going to strip all of that away for the moment. Okay? I want to know your name, the hardest key that you play in, or the hardest key that's for you, and why you're here. Okay? So we'll start all the way to this side. And we're going to get started. So, Derek?
Good morning, everybody. I'm Derek. You know,
You don't have to do it.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Derek. What'd you say?
What's the hardest key that you play in?
I have at least one key, and that is A. That is one of my hardest keys, if not the hardest key. All the other ones I can get by. But the reason I'm here today is to not just get by, add to the skill set that is already there and update the chord structures and just kind of update the whole shebang of my musicianship.
Gotcha. Yeah.
My name is Makai, and the hardest key is probably...
Can't hear you.
The hardest key for me to play is probably A. And I just want to learn some different techniques.
Gotcha.
Ezra Bufford, and hardest key I've been playing for 5,000 years, and still E and A, still I would get out that bad boy as soon as possible. So always willing to learn something new and support it.
Definitely. Yeah. Cool. Well, again, my name is Brandon. My hardest key was G, but now that I'm able to play in all keys, I'm okay with it, but sometimes it depends on who you're following, who you're leading, and the type of church that you're playing in, based on the keys. So, because, you know, you can play in a multicultural church, they may go different varieties of different notes and keys, but then there's strictly church I've grown up in, where you had your C sharps and A flats and F sharps, and, you know, so we're going to dabble into the understanding of that later on, but I definitely want to make sure that we understand what's happening when it comes to being behind your keyboard and understand the mentality and the musicianship. So today, we're going to cover your keyboard, the musicianship of it, and the role of what you're playing. Okay? We're also going to cover why practice is important and why preparation for your services or gigs are definitely vital. Okay? We're also going to cover foundations, arrangements, and your assignment. That's the heavy word right there, assignment, because that is a big role when it comes to your keyboard, and also how you communicate through your instrument, how you communicate when it comes to dealing with your weapon. And also respecting your skill and your gift. Okay? I definitely want to dive into that because that is a very big, important part. Because when you're able to take care of your gift, you're able to elevate everything you're doing. So, everybody repeat after me, ETR.
ETR.
Say it again.
ETR.
Say it again.
ETR.
That That means elevate the room. Elevate the room. For a positive aspect, you can elevate the room. But if you do not take care of your gift, it'll be eliminating the room. There are only two ways to go about it. Either you can elevate the room or eliminate the room by what you do. Okay? With that being said, I need to dive into the practice and preparation first. Okay? Your keyboard, your piano, MIDI board if you have one, whatever you have in front of you, this keyboard, your keyboard, is a weapon. So prepare your weapon. When you look at people who are dealing with war, or looking at people who deal with machine guns and weapons up high, usually they prepare their weapon every time they go. They just don't sit their weapon down after 3 or 4 or 5 fights or battles. No, every time they get ready to go to war or to battle, they prepare their weapon and the ammo that's with it. And in this situation, the keyboard is your weapon, your hands are the ammo. Your hands and your keyboard have to be intact. Okay? So it is very important that before you deal with services or gigs or production or whatever that you're looking to do, you have to practice and be consistent with it. Because what you make a habit, you create longevity with it. Okay? So it's very important that you practice. Now we're not talking like Allen Iverson mentality, like we talking about practice. No, you need to practice, okay? So take time to listen to your material, okay? And do not wait till the last minute to do it. Because people will figure out if you learn the song. Because you have one moment you can be like trying to cheat, like how great is our God, and just stand on that key the whole time. Sing with me, how great is our God. You can cheat all you want, stay right there and just play the bass line. That's fine. But when you take time to practice and really respect your craft, you can open up. Consistently practice and consistently put yourself in a position to hone in your craft, you're able to build on what you already have. Okay? Also, your role with the keyboard is to accompany vocals through your worship sets. Okay? Please understand that when you're behind this keyboard, it is not about you. It is not about you. You have to understand that what you do is a very important role. I'm not taking anything away from what we do. But as keyboard players, as board players, or some of us, it might be from a music director position, it is not about us. And we have to understand that what we play and what we do is, yeah, we're steering the ship, but the ship is not in our name. The ship is not licensed under us. We are the ones that help set the tone for somebody's healing, for somebody's salvation, and just setting the atmosphere. Because let's be honest, some of us as musicians, we don't get that chance to really let go and be free or be attended to when we're behind the keyboard. So one of the best things that you can do is make sure that it's not about you. Humble yourself and be prepared to help lead what's going on. Keyword, help lead what's going on. You may not be in the forefront, but what you do plays a very important role. Okay? So please understand, you are to accompany the vocal. Now, it is important that you have to have a relationship somewhat with the vocal that is leading. definitely want to know where she's leading, where she or they, wherever they are, and they have to know what you're able to bring to the table as well. Because again, even though it's not about you, but it's not about them either. It's a team effort. Okay? So understand that when you're playing or leading from a key position, it's not about you. You're to accompany what's going on at hand. Okay? Here's another part about why I asked everybody what was your hardest key. Scales. Scales matter. Scale lives matter. Okay? Use them properly. Because when you deal with scales, you will know exactly where to go. When you're dealing with scales, you'll know how to hear. When you're dealing with scales, you'll learn, you teach yourself the number system. You'll teach yourself. And we'll dive into that later on too, because I want to make sure that not only everybody knows how to count, but everybody knows exactly where to go. Because you have your same little 3, 4, yeah, that's fine, but it's not just in that area, okay? So we want to make sure that we're diving into that too, okay? So practice your scales often. Take notes of your scale. Matter of fact, when you get home, practice the scale in the hardest key that you're playing in. Eliminate the hardest part of your craft. So that way everything else can be fluid, everything else can run smoothly, and you don't have to worry about it. Okay? So practice them in every key, but start on the hardest key that you play. Okay?
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
I guess how long do you feel like you need to spend on one scale? Like before you go to the next one, or is it just compete?
Personally, since this is a personal class and I want to develop a personal relationship with each person in here, I'm going to tell it like it is. Keep going until you got it. Keep going until it's fluid. Keep going until you have it all together. And if you feel like, pretty much at the end of the day, whatever that fear is in learning that key, master it. Put some faith on it and push past it. Okay? That's my thing. All right. Any more questions before we move to the next thing? Okay. Your board and your musicianship and your role. We already talked about the role as far as what you do, as far as make sure it's not about you, but there's still other areas that we have to understand. Your keyboard is your weapon. We talked about that in the gospel music and Christian music. So, when it comes to musicianship, it is very important that you get along with your army, because you're dealing with warfare when you're behind the instrument. And I know there may be somebody in here that may want to try to dabble in another instrument. Keyboard isn't the only weapon. So when you're behind your instrument, make sure that you're getting along with everybody else that's a part of the team, because chemistry in the kingdom is vital. Chemistry in the kingdom is vital. Chemistry in the kingdom is vital. Okay? In the kingdom, strength comes in numbers. So if you're making it about you, it's not unity. That's one weak link of the team. Don't get booted off. Okay? You play a very important role. God loves music. So let's make sure that you get along with everybody that's involved. Your role with your keyboard is to help steer the ship in worship. We talked about that earlier, but I wanted to bring that up. Okay? Bring it up and understand. Know your lane behind the keyboard. Leave room for other band members. Okay? Leave room. So if everybody, if you play the bass down there and you take it away from what the bass is trying to do and you want that groove, you can't hear it because you all down here. Leave space for the rest of the band to do their part. You can't do a lot of percussive stuff if you already have a percussion player or a drummer. Make sure that you're staying in your lane, because when you stay in your lane, you're not crashing on everybody else's journey to get to where it's going on. Like earlier today, like I know we were coming in, we saw people, oh, I'm about to share it real quick. You know, that's great. But notice that everybody was clashing in what was going on. So instead of worrying about the lane, we just wanted to go, because that's all it's keyboard. But we don't even do that for cars. Oh, it's a car. I can just drive on the highway however I want to. It don't work like that. You got to stay in your lane. Otherwise, accidents will happen. Amen. Okay. So I want y'all to understand the definition of musicianship. Musicianship is knowledge, skill, and artistic sensitivity in performing music. I'll say it again. Musicianship means knowledge, skill, and artistic sensitivity in performing music. It is very important that you take care of your craft, because everybody in this room carries something special. And I cannot wait to see the best form of you on that stage, on that platform, because God is good and what He created in you is great. And I want to see it. I want to be there in the audience like, see, I knew he had it in her. I knew she had it in her. Everything that you have in these hands and in your heart is very vital. So make sure that when it comes to musicianship, you gotta understand knowledge, what you're doing, your skill in what you practice, in what you play, and your artistic sensitivity, knowing what's happening and being sensitive to the Spirit. Okay? Kingdom musicianship. There's another one. A unified group of Levites being sensitive of keeping the door open for God to do what He does best through worship and praise. I'll say it again. Kingdom musicianship means a unified group of Levites being sensitive of keeping the open door for God to do what He does best through worship and praise. And for the ones that are kind of like trying to hurry up and catch notes, I have a whole PowerPoint up here and notes up here. You can come look at it later on. We had an issue with the TV to see the PowerPoint, so it is what it is. We're just going through it, okay? Okay, so let's touch on the head part. Foundation, arrangement, and assignment. Foundation, arrangement, and assignment. So, keep your music simple, straight to the point, for the message or the topic of the song. There's nothing wrong with adding a little razzle dazzle here and there. There's nothing wrong with the sugar and the spice and everything nice. But in order for everything to be good for their soul, we have to make sure that they get to the destination early. Yep.
Okay.
Make sure that their destination to whatever they're trying to receive is smooth sailing. Okay? If you're going to be creative, make sure it doesn't overshadow the message or the word of what's going on. Look, y'all, I'm a very creative person. I love to take different arrangements and do stuff, throw a little this in there and do little grooves here and there. But even me, I still have to be sensitive to what's going on. If what I'm playing is taken away from their deliverance, that's on my hands. That's my problem. And I don't want that to be yours. Because there are people that are coming in this thing dealing with depression. They're dealing with some issues. And if we're playing something that's feeding into the depression and not the healing, that becomes a problem. This is a serious game, y'all. I'm telling y'all, like, we're going to dive into this stuff. And so, again, your role with the is to help establish the foundation of worship. I have to say, notice there's a pattern that I'm trying to get y'all to understand. I'm repeating this stuff. I want y'all to understand that there is a flow and a responsibility going. So again, know your lane, even in arrangements. Leave room for vocals and leave room for God. Because sometimes when we're sitting here behind the keyboard, we want to play, we would play, and we doing all this stuff. And like, God, I know you hear me and I'm doing my work for you. But when are you giving him the space to pour into you? Because sometimes being a musician, it is hard for us to be poured back into. Because we're required to sit behind an instrument, or we're required to stand behind a microphone or whatever your instrument is. And it's like, I'm not worried about what y'all going through right now. I need you to do your part so we can keep everything going. But I'm broken too. I'm dealing with this. I got family that's going through this. I got financial problems. Like, we all deal with life, even behind the keyboard. So it's very important that if nobody else is going to try to pour into you, at least create the space in the music for God to pour into. So that way they can never say that you are responsible for your salvation. Okay? At the end of the day, once we walk out these doors, life's still going to happen. And you still going to have to prepare. And you still going to have to deal with things. And you still going to have to understand that God is real in every aspect of your life, whether it's marriages or relationships, whether it's something dealing with your health, you still have to deal with life. So in order to make sure that you have room for God to pour into you during worship, don't take up too much space. It's okay to, you are the source of, you know, leave that space open. You are the strength of my life. You know, notice that I'm not doing too much, it's just foundation. And then in that moment, it's like, now that I'm not doing too much, I'm making myself available to be poured into. Okay, instead of doing you know, like it's okay. Like sometimes we have to catch ourselves, because sometimes as a musician we'll try to do the most because that's our emotion, that's our feeling, that's what we like to hear. But sometimes what we like to hear is not what's needed to be here, right? You know? So we have to understand the difference. Again, like I'm saying, it's not about you. Okay? So it's very important, you know, to just hold it in. Hold it in, okay, God. Now that you poured into, I can open up a little more, because now I can celebrate what you told me. Now I can celebrate what you've done in my body. I can celebrate what you've done in my relationships. You know, so until then, take it in, hold it in, but you just want to be, yeah, but we can't do that yet. We gotta, God, pour into me, so that way I can move and celebrate. Okay? Now, that part is something that I really want to just make sure that you understand, because you can, when you're playing, you cannot take away from the message. I know that I said that earlier, but I really need y'all to understand. You cannot take away from the message of what's going on. Please, I beg you. Because there might be something that's happening in the moment that you might miss, and then that's a moment that you miss out on. So understand that when you're dealing with your assignment and dealing with this keyboard, try not to miss what's going on. That's why it's important to deal with what I said, ETR, so that way you can elevate the room, or you miss out and eliminate the room. And not just for the room where everybody's standing, but even the room in your heart. You have to elevate the room in your heart, or you can do too much and miss out, and then you eliminate the room in your heart. Okay? So yes, like I said before, unity matters in the ministry in your band. It's not about you. I already said that. I just want to make sure y'all understand that. Your role in the keyboard is to help establish the foundation of worship and know your lane in the arrangements. Okay? Respect your skill when it comes to your assignment. Respect your gift when it comes to your assignment. and respect yourself. When you play, you have to hold yourself to a higher standard. When you play, you have to hold yourself to a higher standard. And there's a reason why I say that. Because, like I was talking about earlier, dealing with life, sometimes life will try to get the best of you. And certain decisions may be made that's going to cause you to either elevate the room or eliminate the room. I don't know what everybody's thinking. We can pray about it later, but in the moment, you have to understand that when you have a responsibility for worship, you have to make sure that your heart is ready to pave the way for somebody to be healed. Because what you do for God is going to reciprocate and turn around and do for you. So if you're just bringing God just anything in any old messy way, what is he going to do with it? You can't lead people with a messy heart. You can't lead people with bitterness. Sometimes, as a Levite, you have to put those things to the side. And it sucks because it feels like nobody cares about your feelings behind this keyboard. But I'm here to tell you that when you hold yourself to a higher standard of responsibility, you're able to push through the hurt. You're able to push through the confusion. You're able to push through the, why man, like, when they short my check, like, I was supposed to get paid this, such and such. It happens. But you cannot put yourself in a position to lose your responsibility, to lose what you have. So it's important that you hold yourself to a higher standard. And honor your hands. These right here can either make and break your future. These are the biggest part of your responsibility outside of your heart. If you're not taking care of your hands and honoring your hands, it's not going to look good. That's why I say practice is important, because when you're practicing your skills, muscle memory gets built. When you're practicing some stuff, you're able to be more fluent with what's going on. You don't have to worry about trying to figure out, oh man, I'm having a hard time playing the A, or I'm having a hard time playing the E, or I'm having a hard time playing the F sharp. Take care of your hands, honor your hands. It is very vital. Keep your weapons sharp, like I said before, and be ready for war. Because that's the gospel truth. There are biblical scriptures that talk about how musicians will be in the front line of war, front lines of battle. And they play and they celebrate the music in advance prior to the war starting, because they're allowing the victory to already be in place. So in order for the victory to be put in place for you, make sure that you're taking care of your weapon early on. Make sure that you set the foundation of worship even before you get to the church. There's nothing wrong with going over stuff at home prior to the night before, we getting ready and chatting and getting yourself prepared. So by the time you walk in the door, you're battle ready. You're battle ready. It doesn't matter what key you play in. At least you're battle ready and your heart is ready. And this next part, what you do behind the scenes, reflect how you take care of your craft. What you do behind the scenes, reflect of how you take care of your craft. If you have issues at home that you're not taking care of, it's going to show in your music. If you have priorities that are out of whack, it's going to show in your music. If you're not taking responsibility in your craft, it's going to show. That's why I say it's very important that you lead in preparation. Again, what you do behind the scenes, that includes character too. What you do behind the scenes will reflect on how you take care of your craft. And there is a scripture that I want to bring up in 1 Peter 3 and 5 in the New Living Translation. It says, instead you must worship Christ as the Lord of your life. And if someone asks you about your hope as a believer, always be ready to explain it. And I know that's a form of communication and talk, but there's also another form of music that's a good platform of communication. So if someone wants to know how you're in Christ, it'll reflect in the show of your music. Because you may not be able to explain it on some occasions, but you sure know how to play it. Look at David. David was in a cave playing his heart out. And because he allowed his heart to be in a position to play for God, he was able to be king eventually. That's why I said these hands will make or break your future. David took honor in his hands and playing for God, and he became king. And I know there are some kings and queens in this room right now that want to walk into a great future. And I'm not saying this stuff just to be preaching, and I really want y'all to understand that it is very important that what you do matters so much. It matters so much. So, with that being said, I just want to make sure that y'all get an overview and understanding of the importance of the keyboard. Now, we're going to get to the fun part. Get your hands ready. It's about time to dive in to playing. Alright? So, let's see. We have about a good 15 to 20 minutes left. Alright? For this first session. And the next session is going to be all playing. Okay? So, with that being said, I talked about warm-ups earlier. So let's go ahead and get our hands together. You know, get our hands stretched out just in case if we need to. You know, if you need to sit on them, get them warm, that's fine. You know, whatever you need to do. Okay? Alright. So, with that being said, warm-ups, it is good to stretch, it is good to exercise, it is good to get your hands ready. Okay? Because when you're dealing with keyboard playing, sometimes you're playing for a long time, your body, especially your back or your hands, tend to get stiff. And then you out here looking like with the hand on the scary movie too. You know, you can't do that. You know, so you can't be. It ain't work like that. All right. So with that being said, let's go ahead and warm up. I'm going to start the scale in C, and then we're going to build up. We go to each key and go from there. All right. So. make sure we start. Okay. 1, 2, 3, and. Good. Stay there. Stay there again. Okay, so let's stop right there real quick. F, G, A, B, C. So I know a lot of y'all play, oh, I play A flat, such and such, like, well, let's make sure that let's get the pearly whites knocked out too, okay? We can't just be just pro-black. Alright?
So racist.
Alright?
He's so racist.
Alright? So, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. Okay? So, with that being said, let's try it again.
Are we just going to G or
We're going all the way to the C, from C to C. Here we go. Here, 1, 2, 3, and C. Okay, here we go. I'll do it first, and then y'all do it. I'll do it again. Hold on, teacher. Okay, 1, 2, 3, and. Okay, let's do it again. 1, 2, 3, and. 1, 2, 3, and. Again, 3, and. Two, 3, and. Notice it'll kind of good, and. Stay in rhythm, stay in rhythm. Remember, it's not about you. Be with everybody on timing. 1, 2, 3, and. That's okay. 2, 3, and. One more time. Okay, let's go up to the next key. C sharp. So let me introduce the black ones. C sharp. G flat. F sharp. A flat. And B flat. Those are your black keys, okay? Those are your black keys, alright? So, this is what we're going to do, alright? I'm going to break it down, I'm going to walk around, make sure y'all get it, alright? I'll do it again. One, two, three, everybody. Yeah, we in C sharp. So this is the key. That's the first black key after C. All right, that's the note that we're starting with. One, two, three, and. 2, 3, and. Good. 3, and. Good. 2. I'm going to make sure that we are being fluent in what we're doing instead of just trying to chop, 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 chop. Instead of just, oh,